ఎవరు పెట్టి Good afternoon, students. So now in today's class, we have to discuss with that how to getting the know your data. So whenever you have to using the data mining, what type of data you have to retrieve and how to visualize the data, how the data you have to divide it. With all information you have to discuss in this getting to know your data. So here mainly here you have to discuss with that the first concept you have to discuss data objects and attribute types and what are the data type objects and what attribute type. So generally data sets are made up of data objects. So a data object represents an entity. How we can say that in a sales database, what are the objects you have in the sales database? Generally here in the sales database, you have the customers, store items, and what type of sales information you have in that sales database. So in a medical database, you have to represent the patients, and similar way in the university database, you can represent the students and professors and courses. These all information in a particular database you have to represent. So here you can say that data sets are made up of data objects. So data objects represents an entity. So here in sales database, customers are the entities. In sales database, are the customers are entities. Similar way in the medical database, patients are the entities. So like this way, you have to represent that is the data objects and what is an attribute? So here in the attribute, mainly you have to represent an attribute is a data field representing the characteristics and features of a data objects. So object is a simple in a particular data set, you have the number of the made up of data objects. Okay. Here similar way in attribute means it is a particular data field. In a particular data field representing the characteristics of the feature of the data object. So that is simply you can say that attribute. What are the attributes? Generally, you have to represent the attributes. Nouns are attribute, and dimensions, features, variables are used or interchangeably in the literature. So here, for example, you have to consider the customer ID, name, address. These are the attributes you have to represent in a customer in a particular database table. So here, for example, you have the university database. That is the entire database. You have the number of tables. What are they? Student table, courses table, and professors table or staff table. In that table, you have the number of attributes. What are they? For example, you have to consider the student table or student relationship. That is the object, student object. That is the data object. In that object, you have the number of entities. In that entity, you have the number of attributes. Those attributes are student name, student ID, his roll number, so address, father and student father name. So you have all the information. Those all are simply called as attributes. So here, this is regarding to that attributes. A set of attributes used to describe the given object is called attribute vector. The distribution of a data involving one attribute is called univariant or bivariant distribution involves two attributes or so on. For example, you have to consider the only one attributes are there in a particular entity that is called univariant entity, or you have that more two variables, two attributes are there in a particular entity that is called uh, bivariant distribution table. Here in that bivariant, that is simply in that entity you have the two attributes on. So that is simply you can say that attributes and its types. The type of the attributes is determined by the set of possible values. Set of possible values, that is the nominal, binary, ordinal, and numeric. These are the type of attributes you have to use in an entity. So the attributes, each attribute types, we have to discuss it further. Uh, that is the nominal attributes and binary attributes and ordinary attributes and numeric attributes. So first one is in this concept mainly you have to what is the data object and attribute type. So data object simply you can say that data sets are made up of data objects. A data objects represents an entity. Like in general way you can say that uh, data set is nothing but one database. In that database you have the number of tables. Tables you can call it as that is the entities. That is the entity is also called as data object. Okay. So in that entity you have the number of attributes. So that attributes you have to represent it as attribute types. So you have the number of number of attributes are there. Those are nominal attributes, binary attributes, ordinary attributes, and numerical attributes. See here, this diagram will shows. I will show you. This is the data objects and attribute types. That is the type of data sets and data objects, attributes, and their types. So here, first one, you have to consider the data sets. Data set means a particular database. Generally, the type of data sets you have represented as record data set, record data sets, and that is simply you can relational records to have represent that is the data matrix. So here in this diagram it shows this is the relational records, that is the login, first name, and the last name. So login ID, that is you have to represent it as COA and his phone number. So this is the John, first name is John, and Selmans. This is the first record, relational record, and login and the phone number. Based on that login, this is the primary key, and based on that primary key, you can create the another table. That is the relational between the two tables. And whenever you want to perform this is the documented data. Team, ball, lost, and timeout. This is a particular record. So this is the transaction data. Transaction IDs, bread, cake, milk, beer, bread. This is one record. So this is all our records you have presented in all these records, relational records and transaction records and the document data. We have to cross tabulation. Big spenders, books are 30%, you have to print, multimedia is 70%, budget spenders are 60% and 25%. So all this data you have to consider as a particular record. So whatever the data in a particular table, each person information you have to represent it as record. And second type of data you have to represent data set, and that means it's a tabulated data. First type of data set is tables data. So whatever the information you have to take based on the attributes, that all data you have to store into the database. Okay, that is the table data. That is, we can say that it's the recorded data. It is a recorded data set. And the next one is the graph and network set. So graph and network set, you have to represent it as World Wide Web. Generally, whenever you have to using the internet, so all the data, all the type of data you have to insert it. World Wide data means XML file, documented files, Excel files. So you have the different types of format of data you have to store into the World Wide Web. That all comes under that all you have to call it as graphs and network data. Next one is the social and information networks. It is the like social media, Facebook and Twitter. So all these information networks are simply social or information networks comes under the graph and network data set. And the next one is molecular structures networks. Molecular structures networks we have to represent it as in chemical reactions that all you have to represent it, and as well as chemistry, chemical reactions. What is the molecular structures? That all information we have to represent it in this molecular structure network, as well as in, medical field. Also, you can use this type of data set. That is a graph and network data set. So next one is ordered data. So here we have to represent the ordered data, that is the videos, temporal data, sequential data, genetic sequence data. That all you have to represent it as ordered data. For example, here you have to see the videos, sequence of images. Sequence of images you have to represent it as videos, and generic sequence of DNA structure you have to represent it as there is a genetic sequence data. Webcam and USB tube, we have to use the temporal data and watch data. That is the temporal data and time series, monthly value, and building of approvals. So this is the in a particular that is the sequence based sequence of images. Time basis, you have to print the images. That is simply you can say that orderly you can print the data. That is the sequential data, voice, videos data, temporal data, genetic sequence data. These all are you have to call it as ordered data set. First one is the recorded data set. Second one is the graph and network data set, and third one is the ordered data set. So next one is the spatial and image multimedia data set. In the spatial and image and multimedia data set, you have to change the number of images related to the people or receiving information, that all have to present the images data. And spatial data, a particular images related to the place or country or state or particular city or particular street data, you have to represent it as that is the spatial data maps, that is simply can be represented in a spatial image multimedia data set. And similar way audios, similar way videos. So these all these type of data you have to include. Already you have to discuss this databases. These all data sets are simply called it as spatial and image and multimedia data sets. So this is regarding to the various types of data sets. First one is the record data set. Second one is the graph and network data set, and the third one is the uh, third one is the order data set, and fourth one is the spatial and image multimedia data set. These are the four types of data sets you have to use in data mining. So from these data sets only you can retrieve the data by using the data mining. Okay, clear? Now in each data set you have to have the different types of data objects. Each data set is simply, it is a collecting of data sets. Data sets are made up of the data objects. Already in these four data sets, you have to made up with this data objects. So the data object is sample. Simply you can say that it's the instance of a data set. Data object is simply call it as the instance of a data set represented an entity. So for example, you have to take these are the examples. You can say that in a sales database, items is are the data objects. Data set is database. What are the objects you have? Data objects are there. Customers, store items, sales. These are the data objects. Similar way in the medical database, patients and treatments. Medical database is a data set and patients and treatments are the data objects. Similar way, university database, students, courses. So university database is the data set, and the students, professors, and courses are the data objects. Shared by the attributes by using the various attributes. See here, this is the database rows. This is the database rows. So see here. See here, this is the database rows and data objects. Columns are you have to represent it as attributes. So here, what are the attributes are there in a particular table, or in simply you can say that in a particular data object. This all are we are simply call it as data object, the particular record. You have the in a particular in this entity set, they have the number of data objects. So each attribute you have to represent the patient ID, age, height, weight, gender. These are the attributes. Okay. What are the types of attributes? Here we have the different types of attributes, attributes and binary attributes, ordinary attributes. So here the first one you have to consider the attribute type. First one attribute type is the nominal. Is a nominal category in say that in parts of speech you can represent it as names. Similar way here in the attribute types we have to represent it as nominal attribute type names of things. That is the states or names of the things we have to represent it like hair color, black, brown, red, gray, white, marital status, occupation, ID numbers, and zip codes. That all are simply can call it as attribute, nominal attribute. Only the names and the names of the things only you have to represent it in this nominal attributes. Mainly this is the categorized with the names and states of the things. And the next one is the binary attributes. Binary attribute is nominated attribute is with only two categories only. That is the state 0 or 1. So here either 0 or 1 only we have to consider in the binary attributes. That is the nominal attributes with the only two states, that is the 0 and 1. Here two types of binaries are there. One is the symmetric binary and the second one is the asymmetric binary. In the symmetric binary, both outcomes equally important. Both outcomes equally important. That type of binary you have to call binary attributes are called symmetric binary attributes. Those are like male or female. That is simply can call it as gender. So here both are equally important. And the second one is the asymmetric binary. The outcomes of the outcomes of binary is not equally important. Like asymmetric binary, like examples of medical test, either positive or negative. Most of the cases are you have to getting the positive. Most of the cases you have to getting the negative. So that is it is not important, not equally important. And the convention of this asymmetric binary attributes are assign one to most important outcome, having the concept. Most of the people have the getting the detail. These are the attributes we can call it as symmetric. But the attribute type have to represent it in data mining. Here we have the represent the four types of attribute types: nominal attributes, binary attributes, and ordinal attributes and numerical attributes. So first two cases we have to complete it. Now ordinal attributes. Ordinal attributes are represented as values have a meaningful order, ranking better, magnified to call. The ordinal attributes, an ordinal attribute is an attribute which possible values to have meaningful order or ranking among them, but the magnitude between the such attributes are called ordinal attributes. Values that have the meaningful order, and that means the values. What are the values we have to using in ordinal attributes? Those are the meaningful order, but the magnitude between the successive values is you don't know. Like for example, size, small, medium, large, grades, army rankings. That is the ordinal attribute. So next one is the last one is the another last one attribute is numeric attribute. So in the numeric attributes, mainly you have to represent it as quantity, integer, or real value attributes. So in that numerical attribute, that is generally you have to divide into two types. That is the interval scaled attributes. So here you can divide it into two types. That is the interval scaled attributes and ratio scaled attributes. So first one is you have to consider the interval scaled attributes. Simply you can measure that measured on a scale equal size unit. Interval scale attributes generally equal scale size units. For example, you have to consider 10 to 100. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Like this way, that is equally sized unit measures you have to represent it as interval scale at interval scale numeric attribute that is measured on a scale of equal sized units. And another way, another point you have to discuss in interval scale, values have a particular order. For example, temperature in centigrades or Fahrenheit. So calendar date. In order you have to maintain in the interval scale at numeric attribute. And another way you can represent here, the values have order, that is the no true 0 point, we can add the subtract degrees minus 100 is 10 degrees, warmer than 90 degrees. We cannot multiply the values of credit ratios. Minus 100 degrees is not twice a warm of 50 degrees. So you have to maintain a particular order in this interval numeric attribute. And next one is ratio scaled numeric attributes. In the ratio 0 point, that is the we can speak of values as being in order to the ratio scale attribute is numerically we can say that ratio scale attribute of being order is larger than the unit of measurement. For example, we have to consider 10K degrees is twice as high as the 5K degrees. So that is the unit of measurement ratio. So that is simply you can say that in actual values are represented in interval scaled attribute, numerical attribute, but in a ratio scale numeric attributes, we can add the magnitude, not just as a value. If in case, for example, today is 40 degrees centigrade out there, maybe tomorrow the ratio will be increases to 20%. So 20, the 20% means that is 8 degrees, that is 48 degrees tomorrow. So that is based on that we have to represent the values of an order of the magnitude larger than the unit of measurement. So if temperature is Kelvin, how to represent it? Kelvin, length, pounds, monetary or quantities you have. A 6 foot here, see here, typing mistake. A 6 feet person is 20% taller than the 5 feet person. Okay, that is the way we have to represent the ratios. A baseball game lasting 3 hours is 50% longer than the game lasting 2 hours. So that is the ratios we have to represent it. Actually, in our city you have the a huge amount, 1 lakh, 2 lakhs people are there in our city. So the percentage may be increased 20%. That is the 40,000 people will be added to the next further next year. So like this way, you have to represent the ratio scaled numeric attribute. And final one, that is the how to differentiate between the attributes, that is the discrete and continuous attributes. In the discrete and continuous attributes, First one is having the only finite countable infinite set of values. That is like zip codes, provision and set of codes, collection of documents. You have to represent it as discrete attributes. Sometimes you have to represent it as integer variables also. So binary attributes are special cases. You can use the discrete attributes. So here, whatever the attributes, you have to represent it as discrete attributes. You have the finite set of. It's a countable. For example, 5 people or 6 people. It is a countable only. Whereas continuous means it is not countable. It's continuously the strength will be increases. That is the continuous attributes. Here having the finites as countable in countable set of values are represented as discrete attributes. Continuous attributes are represented as real numbers as attributed values. Example, temperature, height, weight. So for example, today temperature is 40 degrees. Maybe tomorrow the temperature will be increased to 42 degrees. So it is a continuous attribute. For example, discrete attribute, your today is 40 degrees, tomorrow also. For example, our body temperature is 36. So 37 degrees. Let us so maybe tomorrow also similar temperature. So that is the discrete attribute. So here the temperature have height may be increases for the people. Similarly, practically real values can only measure and represent using finite number of digits. Continuous attributes are typically represented as floating point variables and like float, double, long, double. So that is the continuous data we have to represent it as a real value. So here, what type of see here some of the questions related to this attributes. What is the type of an attribute that describes the height of the person in centimeters? Nominal, ordinal, interval scale, or which one is that? Similar. Three types of medals are awarded gold. To describe these medals, which type of attribute should be used? Ordinal, nominal, and scale. The next one is the descriptive data. So, class the data objects and attribute types. So first one, data objects. What type of data objects you have to represent it? mainly four types of data objects. So here we have to see the problem. We have to, in particularly measuring the central tendency, we can represent the mean and mode and median values. Mean value you have to find out, you know that summation of values by divided by count. That is the algebraic way. In distributive way, you have to call it as computed by the partitioning the data into the small subsets. In distributive way, you have to call mean and mode and median values. Mean means average value. Have to find out our given data. Median value you have to represent the and you have to consider and have to find out the average of last mid values. That is the way you have to find out the median value. And the last one is mode. Mode means most frequent data value in the data set that is simply called as mode. So what are the problems we have to represent here? The main methods are sensitive to extreme outlier values. What to do and trimmed mean chopping the extreme values. For example, a particular data you want to find out the mean value. So in that table or in that data set and data slide, all values do not be filled with that by the users. For example, employees' salaries. So some of the people, is it possible to you have to some of the data you have to chop in. That means you have to eliminate that type of people and you have to find out the mean. That is the trimmed mean. That means you have to average value you have to consider or a particular value you have to assign to that where you have to not fill with that filled with that data. So some x value you have to consider. That is the way you have to finding the mean value. Second one is median value. That is a holistic measure. In the middle, if odd number of values and average of the middle. So middle value I have to consider if it is odd. If the value is see the median value. Middle value if the odd number of values and average of the middle values, two values of they have to represent it. The holistic measure must be computed on the entire data set. Holistic measures are much more expensive to compute than distributive measures. Okay, this is the median value. Middle of the value you have to find out. Whenever the odd middle value you have to consider. The even you have to take the middle value. That is the median value. Next one is the mode. Most frequent data values you have to consider, that is taken as a mode value. This is regarding to that mean, mode and median values. We'll continue in next class. That is a central tendency.